realize the moment you stop giving it away. And one of the easiest ways to give it away is by chasing validation, attention, or noise that has absolutely nothing to do with your purpose. We live in a world that worships distraction, constant movement, noise, opinions flying from every direction. And the truth is, people don't want you to focus on yourself. They want you to focus on them, on their drama, their chaos, their opinions about what you should or shouldn't be doing. They want your energy, your mental bandwidth, because the more you focus on them, the less power you have for yourself. But when you learn to be quiet, not passive, quiet, and redirect that energy inward, things begin to shift. Slowly at first, but then all at once, because you start getting clear on who you are. You stop leaking energy trying to explain yourself. You stop needing to be understood. You stop performing for an audience that never really cared about your growth to begin with. When you focus on yourself, you are no longer just reacting to life. You are creating it. You're not in defense mode, you're in command. And I want you to ask yourself something. How much time have you spent explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you? How often have you bit your tongue because you were afraid of offending someone who doesn't even know your full story? How much of your energy has gone into proving your worth instead of building it? Silence is a power move. It is not weakness. It is not submission. It's strategy. It's restraint. And it's clarity. Because when you get quiet, the world gets louder, but not in the way you think. What gets loud is your clarity, your instincts, the truth you've been silencing in order to make other people feel more comfortable around your power. Let them be uncomfortable. Your job is not to shrink yourself for the comfort of others. Your job is not to narrate your every move for public consumption. Your job is to become unshakable. And to do that, you need discipline, focus, and the ability to sit with yourself without distraction. Let's talk about focus, real focus. Not productivity hacks or morning routines. I'm talking about the kind of focus that comes from understanding what matters and cutting out everything that doesn't. The kind of focus that requires sacrifice. The kind that may cost you friendships, comfort, even temporary approval. Most people don't want to do that kind of work because it feels lonely. It feels like you're walking away from everything familiar. And in some ways you are. You're walking away from a version of yourself that was built for survival, not power. You're walking away from habits that you focus on yourself. You start building in silence. You stop talking about the things you're going to do and just start doing them. No announcement, no permission. You move in silence. Not because you're hiding, but because you no longer need applause to validate your direction. You're focused on mastery, not recognition. You see, the loudest person in the room usually has the least control. The one who needs to be seen, heard, and acknowledged constantly. That's not power, that's desperation. Power is quiet. Power is controlled. Power is strategic. And if you want to own your life, you need to learn to be alone with yourself. That means getting comfortable with discomfort, with the silence that reveals the truth, with the growth that no one claps for. Here's the part people don't want to hear. Sometimes you need to disappear, to rebuild. Sometimes you need to say no to everyone else so you can say yes to yourself. That doesn't make you selfish, that makes you disciplined. Because nothing falls into place by accident. It falls into place because you stop getting in your own way. You stop pouring energy into things that don't serve your vision. You stop trying to carry people who refuse to walk. And when you do that, when you get laser focused on your growth, your healing, your mission, things start to align. Opportunities start showing up. People you thought you needed start falling away. The chaos starts to quiet down. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. You become someone who can handle hard things without losing your center. That doesn't come from pleasing everyone. That comes from protecting your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. It comes from choosing stillness over noise, substance over status, discipline over distraction. You want results? Stop announcing your plans. Stop explaining your moves. Stop negotiating with your old self. Put your head down and get to work. Let your silence make the noise. Let your actions do the talking. Let your consistency speak for itself. Because here's the truth. People respect what you build in silence more than what you brag about out loud. People notice the shift, even when you say nothing. When you elevate your standards and stay quiet about it, your energy starts to speak before you do, and the right people will recognize it. But you've got to be willing to outgrow the noise, outgrow the need to be seen, outgrow the urge to defend your path. Because the second you start explaining your growth to people who haven't grown, you're already wasting time. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You need to be yourself, fully, boldly, unapologetically, and that version of you doesn't have time for drama, gossip, or distractions disguised as opportunities. It takes discipline to walk away from anything that doesn't align. It takes strength to be quiet when everyone else is speaking, and it takes maturity to realize that not everything needs a reaction. Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. People confuse stillness with passivity. They confuse silence with submission. That's because most people have never experienced real power. They don't know what it looks like to move with intent, to build in the dark, to become the storm, not the noise around it. So when you focus on yourself, don't be surprised if people start projecting. Don't be surprised if they call you cold, distant, selfish. That's not on you. That's a reflection of their own discomfort. People don't like it when you stop performing, when you stop dancing for their approval, when you stop playing small to fit in. But you're not here to fit in. You're here to rise, to evolve, to become. And that doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the shadows, in the quiet, in the space where no one is watching. But everything is changing. There's a version of you waiting to be unleashed. But you won't meet them if you keep trying to please everyone else. You won't meet them if you're constantly checking your phone, responding to every distraction, reacting to every criticism. You meet that version of you when you commit to the work, when you stop running from discomfort, when you sit in the silence long enough to hear your own voice. The truth is, you don't need more followers, likes, or applause. You need focus, you need clarity, you need grit. And that starts by turning down the noise and tuning into yourself. You want your life to fall into place? Start acting like it already has. Start walking like you already own the room. Start making decisions like you're already the person you're becoming. Because when you do that, everything else adjusts accordingly. People rise to meet you or fall away. Opportunities align or reveal themselves as distractions. Your path clears, not because it got easier, but because you got sharper. The world doesn't need more noise, it needs more clarity. It needs more people who are rooted in who they are and quiet in their confidence. You want to make an impact? Start within. Get your house in order. Get your mind clear. Get your spirit grounded. Then move. Without warning, without permission, without explanation. Let them wonder what you're up to. Let them speculate, because by the time they figure it out, you'll already be 10 steps ahead. This isn't about arrogance. It's about power. The kind that can't be taken, only cultivated. Shout, it whispers. And when it speaks, people listen. Not because it's loud, but because it's real. So be real with yourself. Be honest about what's been holding you back. Be ruthless about cutting out the things that don't align. Be committed to showing up, even when no one's watching. And stay silent, not because you're hiding, but because you're building. Because you're becoming. Because you understand that what's being built in the dark will shine when the time is right. Let your stillness disturb the ones who expect chaos. Let your silence unsettle the ones who were comfortable with your old version. Let your evolution be so profound, it needs no announcement. Because when you truly focus on yourself and stay silent, everything doesn't just fall into place. It aligns, elevates, and transforms. And so do you. Passivity, weakness, or a lack of confidence. But the truth is, silence is one of the most powerful tools you have when used intentionally. It's not about being timid. It's not about hiding. It's about conserving your energy, protecting your peace, and learning to speak only when necessary. When you stop broadcasting every thought, plan, or opinion, you begin to understand the value of restraint, and in that restraint you find your power. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. That's why they fill every gap with noise. Talking just to talk, reacting to every comment, posting every move online. But the ones who are truly in control, the ones who know who they are and where they're going, they don't need to explain themselves to anyone. They let their presence do the talking. Their focus, their actions, and their discipline speak louder than any words ever could. There's a reason powerful people are rarely the loudest in the room. Real power doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't beg for recognition. It simply exists. Grounded, rooted, undeniable. And when you begin to embody that mindset, everything around you starts to shift. You stop reacting to nonsense. You stop over-explaining. You stop chasing validation. You start to operate from a place of inner authority. And that alone is intimidating to anyone who hasn't done the same work. Silence gives you leverage. It allows you to observe before you act, to think before you speak, to calculate instead of react. Most people expose their emotions, their insecurities, and their intentions the moment they open their mouth. But when you hold your tongue, when you choose not to reveal everything, you maintain control. You remain unpredictable. And in that unpredictability, you gain a tactical advantage that most overlook. The more you talk, the more you give away. And not just information, you give away your emotional state, your doubts, your need for approval. When you're constantly trying to be heard, you give others the blueprint to manipulate or undermine you. But when you become still, when you choose to be quiet, people don't know what you're thinking, and that unsettles them. That's power. That's the kind of silence that commands attention without ever asking for it. Some people talk to fill the space because they're afraid of being forgotten. They believe that constant visibility equals relevance. But what they don't understand is that lasting influence comes from depth, not volume. You don't need to be everywhere, talking all the time. You need to be intentional, deliberate, strategic, and that means choosing when to speak and, more importantly, when not to. Silence also allows you to protect your energy. Not everyone deserves access to your thoughts, your plans, or your emotions. The more you reveal, the more you open yourself up to criticism, judgment, and noise. But when you keep things to yourself, you preserve the sanctity of your process. You give yourself room to grow, to evolve, to make mistakes without public scrutiny. And that space is sacred. It's where real transformation happens. There's strength in not reacting. Not every comment needs a response. Not every opinion needs to be addressed. The more you react to noise, the more distracted you become from your mission. Silence is not avoidance. It's focus. It's deciding that your energy is too valuable to waste on people who don't contribute to your growth. When you choose silence, you choose yourself. And there's a difference between silence born from fear and silence born from power. The first one hides, the second one builds. One avoids the world, the other masters it. When you operate from that second kind of silence, you're not withdrawing, you're recalibrating. You're getting sharper, more precise. You're listening more than you're speaking, because you know that information is power, and listening gives you more than speaking ever could. People will often mistake your silence for weakness. Let them. That's part of the strategy. Let them underestimate you. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Because while they're making noise, burning out their energy for attention, you're staying grounded, you're building, you're preparing. And when you do speak, when you act, it lands with force. It means something. Because it's not coming from insecurity, it's coming from power. In a world that is constantly telling you to speak up, post more, stay visible, and stay loud, there is immense strength in doing the opposite. In staying quiet until your results speak for themselves. In being silent until your growth becomes undeniable. In holding your tongue because you've realized your purpose doesn't need to be explained to anyone who can't see it. There's a reason silence is feared by those who don't understand it, because silence reveals truth, it reveals character, it strips away performance and exposes who you really are beneath the noise. And for most people, that's terrifying, but not for you. Because when you learn to sit in that silence and embrace it, not avoid it, you become unshakable. You don't need to convince anyone of your value. You already know it. And that kind of confidence doesn't yell, it whispers. It doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't perform, it becomes. This isn't selfish. This is necessary. You can't pour into anything or anyone until you've mastered how to fill yourself up. And that doesn't happen when you're scattered. It happens when you get laser focused. When you say no more than you say yes. When you show up for yourself every single day, whether it feels good or not. That kind of focus sharpens you. It toughens you. It builds the version of you that can handle everything you once thought would break you. Most people don't want to go there. It's easier to scroll, to gossip, to blame, to compare. But none of that brings change. None of that builds discipline. None of that helps you become who you're meant to be. That version of you, the one who is clear, powerful, grounded, doesn't have time to engage in drama. That version doesn't chase attention or beg for support. They build, regardless. They get quiet, they get serious, and they get to work. You start realizing just how much time you wasted trying to manage other people's perceptions, trying to explain your choices, trying to prove your worth. All of that goes out the window when you focus on yourself. You stop needing to be understood because your clarity becomes enough. You stop asking for permission to grow. You stop making excuses for why you're stuck, and instead, you take responsibility for where you want to go. That's the shift. That's the moment when your energy starts to align. And when your energy aligns, your world changes. Not because some external miracle happens, but because you start moving with purpose. Your habits change. Your standards rise. Your mindset elevates, and from that space you start attracting what matches your energy. The right opportunities, the right people, the right situations. They don't just show up by accident. They show up because you made room for them. You cleared out the distractions. You made yourself ready. When you stay focused on yourself, you stop being reactive. You stop basing your decisions on temporary emotions. You stop allowing the opinions of others to guide your path. You don't flinch when people doubt you. You don't spiral when things get hard. You know what you're doing, and that's enough. You develop an inner compass that doesn't shake under pressure. And that inner compass is built through daily decisions, through discipline, through holding yourself to a higher standard even when no one is watching. You begin to understand that your biggest competition was never out there. It's not the person next to you. It's the version of you that wants to stay safe, stay comfortable, stay small. That's who you're at war with. That's who you need to outgrow. And you do that by showing up differently. By choosing growth over comfort, by staying focused on your path instead of being distracted by everyone else's. This kind of focus isn't glamorous. It's not always exciting. Most of the time, it's repetitive. It's uncelebrated. It's quiet. You'll have to say no to things that look good but don't serve you. You'll have to outgrow relationships that no longer align with your mindset. You'll have to sit with discomfort, face your flaws, and commit to doing better. Every single day. That's the price of transformation, but the return is priceless. Eventually, the things that once drained you don't even get your attention anymore. The things that once triggered you no longer have power over you. The situations that once made you doubt yourself now remind you of how far you've come. That's the result of radical self-focus. You rise. Not because things get easier, but because you've trained yourself to be stronger. People will notice. Even if you never say a word, they'll feel the shift. They'll see the difference in how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself. That's what happens when you commit to yourself. You become undeniable. Not loud, not boastful, just grounded, consistent, and untouchable in your discipline. It's not about being perfect. It's about being relentless. Relentless in your pursuit of becoming who you're capable of being. Relentless in choosing yourself. especially when it's hard. Relentless in blocking out the noise so you can hear your own voice, your own truth, your own purpose. That's where everything starts to fall into place, not because the world changes, but because you did.